Hello and welcome to Thrive After 45, the podcast where we redefine what's possible in midlife. I'm Denise Drinkwalter, your midlife renewal coach, here to help you embrace your power, your purpose, and your potential. This is your space to let go of guilt, navigate transitions, rediscover joy, and thrive for you, by you, because of you. And today it is an absolute honor and a privilege to welcome Karen Rudolf to our show. Karen is a transformational empowerment coach and the creator of Tranquil Solutions Clarity Tool. Her work is rooted in more than 18 years of experience guiding heart centered women through deep personal breakthroughs, and her impact has reached over 10,000 lives across the globe. And I am sure that number is rising. But what makes Karen's voice so powerful isn't just her certifications and frameworks, it's her story. After a life altering accident and years of navigating trauma, burnout, and self rediscovery, she has formed her own healing journey into a method to help others rise. Her approach is grounded in subconscious reprogramming, energetic alignment, breath work, and holistic wellness, not just as techniques, but as a way of life. Karen supports women in breaking free from old patterns, self doubt, and overwhelm so they can show up, speak up, and live lives aligned with purpose and clarity. Karen, welcome to Thrive After 45. It's great to have you here.
Oh, it's so powerful. Thank you. I'm gonna hire you. I'm gonna have to hire you as my PR person. That was awesome.
I've had that comment before. I'm happy to give you my show notes on that intro. It's
Thank you.
amazing, isn't it?
It's different when you're on the other end hearing it. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
It really
I
is. So thank
I
thank you.
you're more,
Such a
oh my
pleasure.
gosh, you are so more than welcome, and I can't wait to dig into our conversation today. I
Oh,
would
thank you.
absolutely love to hear more of your background because I know our audience really resonates with this concept of feeling burnt out, disconnected, no idea how to put one foot in front of the other. Can you share a little bit of your story so we can really deepen our connection with you in this conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things I truly believe it starts like way back when, when we're young and youthful and innocent and life begins to happen and all of a
Yeah.
sudden something happens and we make it mean whatever we make it mean. And then your brain looks for evidence to make it the truth. And then once you keep finding this evidence, you get caught up in that emotional loop. So you get caught up in the not enough, not love, not worthy, all of those conversations that, start creating the identity of who you are then, because your
Ah,
brain is there to support you in keeping you safe. So, for instance, if I may,
sure.
um, I'm aging myself here. So,
That's
when I was,
okay.
we're over 45, so we could do that.
We're good with that. Absolutely, sister.
So, so imagine, right, back in the day, you're at the grocery store with mom, little Johnny. I'm going to call you little Johnny.
Yep.
Little Johnny's at the grocery store, and he goes down the cereal aisle. And for marketing purposes, they always put the toys in the boxes on the eye level of the kids. So here, mom's going, come on, pick something and let's go. I'm in a hurry. We gotta, whatever, for mom is saying. And she wheels the carriage around the corner, and little Johnny looks up, right, at age 5 or 6, and he's like, oh my God, mom left me. She abandoned me.
Ah,
Now he gets there and he's really pissed off that mom left him, right? So instead of emoting that piss off and getting really
right?
upset or asking because he's not taught how to communicate at this point, he's holding on to that anger. And then what happens is he goes to school and at age between 6 and 13, he's now starting to discover girls. And his first girl that he's attracted to, he makes an advance towards her very awkwardly. And the girl is like, oh, guys, and she just like poo-poos
Yeah,
him off.
yeah.
So now he's definitely feeling abandoned by women, right?
Okay.
Between the ages of 13 to 21, he's now looking for evidence that other women are going to start abandoning him. And then it becomes all women are going to abandon me, right?
Mm.
So we all have similar stories to that. Mine personally was I had an experience when I was 5. I was in school, and this was around the time when kids would be seen, not heard. And so I
Right,
already had that background noise of, gee, I'm not worthy enough because my parents won't even listen to me, go out and play kind of thing. And then
right.
I went to school and we had, now I'm really aging myself, the blackboards,
Yes.
chalk and the eraser.
Yay. Got it.
And right, I'm sitting in the front row because I wore glasses back then. And so I'm at the front row and I had tiles to do my spelling words. And I raised my hand and I said, I don't have enough tiles. And the teacher started laughing, which made the whole class
Mm.
laugh. And I wasn't getting the joke. And I'm looking around and I'm just like awestruck, like, what the heck? Like, what just happened? And I get the chills. I'll never
Oh,
forget it. It came around to, and that's a visceral response. So when you get a visceral response, and we'll get back to that later, that
sure.
is the first clue that that's a trigger for you, right? And
Okay.
you have power over the triggers. So keep that in mind for a second. So she comes over to my left side, she squats down and she points to this back blackboard. And I have to turn my little body and it says April Fool's Day. And I'm looking at, and the class is like roaring. And I'm looking at the board. I had no relatedness to my parents, never played April Fool's jokes or anything like that. And she's laughing, and I wanted to hide underneath the desk. But what I made that little girl mind, protective mind, I will never open my mouth again, right? In fear of being, made to feel stupid because I felt stupid. So in that moment, I called myself stupid, right? Must be
Uh-huh.
stupid because I don't get it. So what happens is cause and effect, right? It's all energy. For every action, there's an opposite equal reaction. So then what happened was I would go further in school and the teacher would call on me and I would say, I don't know. I don't know became my default. And
Right.
then later on in life, whether I knew it or not, I don't know, became my crutch. And then it was like it really thwarted my movement forward. So I went into a career of nursing and gave up my nursing to raise my family. I was fortunate enough to do that at the time.
Hmm.
And while I was in nursing, the doctor had said to me, here's a script, discharge this patient. And I looked at the script because I've always had a curious mind and I always played with manipulative puzzles as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So there's always a connection between what you did back then and what you're doing now if you're on purpose, right? So I always played with manipulative puzzles. So today, fast forward, I do creative problem solving for my clients. So I'm looking at the script and he says, discharge paper patient. And I'm saying, but you're masking the problem. You're not getting to the root cause. And he's, shut up. They're triggered right back to childhood. Shut up, kids are to be seen, not heard. And I'm like, but he goes, there are other people that can take your job. And I was like, whoa. So when I gave up nursing to raise my family, divorce happened. Wasn't planning on it, didn't expect it. It came out
Of
of left
course.
field. And I had 3 small children at the time, and I was like, what am I going to do now? And
Mm.
I was so the victim. I was the wallflower back then. Kid you not. There's no way I could have looked you in the eye. There's no way I would walk like this behind my phone.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like I was really I didn't know how to be, I didn't even know who I was, other
Right.
than a mother and a wife and a housekeeper and a taxi cab driver and all that. I had
Yeah.
no awareness. When I was getting divorced, my girlfriend said to me, Karen, well, what's your dream? And I looked at her and I went, my what? She says, your dream. And I was like, I went home, I had to look it up in the dictionary. We didn't
Oh,
have online back then. I had to look it in the
of course.
cried my eyes out
Oh,
because I had no relatedness to what a dream was. And I thought, okay, something's got to shift. And then, of course, I was going through the divorce and I was so victimized. He did this and he did that. And how can he do this to us? And, da, 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 da. And then I realized three fingers were coming back at me.
Mm.
I'm so busy out there pointing at everything else. Where can I be responsible? But I didn't know what to do with that. I was victim forever. My mother was a victim. It was like, how do you be something you don't know how to be, right? So my paralegal, he was amazing, Cliff, I'll never forget him. Oh God. He said to, I would call him,
Of
cha-ching,
course, right?
cha-ching. And
Of
he said,
course.
I can listen to you all day long. However, when you get before the judge, he's not going to listen like this.
Ah,
And he says, there's a chance you could lose your children because your former is going after them.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, Mama Bear came out, and I went,
yeah,
over my dead body, watch me.
yeah.
And I didn't know what that looked like, but it made me stop and pause. So that was the beginning of my how to create what I've created today moving forward, right? So out of situations, it's like you never know what possibility is going to come out of it. So that was the beginning of my butterfly technique, which I created, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Sure.
And so I paused and I was like, wow, I'm my children's first teacher. I'm their first mentor.
Mm.
What am I showing them by being the victim? And like, how can I shift this? And it was just, I'm getting all my visuals
Yeah, no
back.
kidding. I hear you.
So anyway, I moved forward in communication courses. It was the best thing I could have done because I really got present to, as adults, we really don't know how to
Mm.
communicate because we
Yeah,
weren't taught in school. We were
of
taught
course.
nouns and verbs, putting them together and, but not to speak.
Yeah.
So I had no idea where that was going to take me, but that was the best thing I could have ever done for myself. And then I remember sitting down one night, my former had taken the children for the first weekend away. And I was like, I was hiding behind my kids and I didn't know
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna fall on my face. I talked about killing myself and I went through this whole gamut. My girlfriend's like, oh, you're not, you're gonna come over my house. It was just really
Yeah.
dramatic. But I remember going home after that and I pulled out a piece of paper and I said, what are all my strengths? Like,
Nice.
because somebody said to me, are you going back to nursing? And I went, well, I'm down in Florida. I have a New York, New Jersey, and Arizona license, but I don't have a Florida one. What am I going to do? And it
Mm.
was just like, so I sat down with all my strengths and I said, what can I build with this? That's always been the
Mm.
question in my, what can I build with this as a creative, right? What can I build with
Right.
this? What can I do, right? So I started looking at, okay, I do 6 hours of carpooling. I could be a taxi cab driver. Scratch that one off. And I started looking at them, and then I got down to the last ones that really resonated with me, and I went, wow, like, I can talk to people. I've always, even though I'm shy and I'm a introvert,
Yeah.
I can still, people would come to me for advice all the time. They used to call me the Dear Abby, which was the close near
Yes.
really
Remember,
aging myself.
dear Abby? Yes.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of my coaching career. I went back to school and I said, I'm going to be, my sister-in-law said to me, you'd make a great life coach. And I'm like, what's that? So I took that in my communication and then it was like,
Yeah.
nah, that's not quite making
Right?
it. So, and I couldn't get enough quantum physics and neuroscience. I delved
Mm.
into that like there was no tomorrow. It was like the universe opened up for me. And I was like, I have no idea why I'm doing this, but I'm just going to go with the flow. And it was just like sensory overload. It was like, wow, like the whole universe opened up for me during that. And I was still looking for something outside of myself.
Right.
And I started looking for some peace in my life because my divorce sadly had gone on for like 4 years and very
Oh.
costly to say the least. But I was still in that time, I was searching for something. So I studied world religions and I'm
Hmm.
like, I can't quite find my place in that, but I'm still
Right.
looking outside of myself. But what's the common thread
Ah,
there was compassion. What can
okay.
I do with that? Right. And I'm like, okay, nursing taught me to be a chameleon because I was always being
Yeah.
pulled from my station and like go over here, go over. So I was able to adapt really quickly. I
Right.
can be compassionate and I'm empathetic anyway. I didn't know how to lead from empathy because I would take it all home,
Right.
which was
Carry it.
which
Yep.
right? And it was burning me out. My hair, you can tell, I mean, I have a mane here, horses are one of my things, but I have a mane here. Most of it's behind me, but it was thick and it was coming out in clumps. So that
Mm.
was my first clue that I was burning out.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, time out. Something's got to give because if
Yeah.
I fall apart, this whole thing falls apart. And I had three
Right.
small children. So I started looking for ways and means of managing my
Mm-hmm.
own stress. So when
Mm-hmm.
you start knowing yourself, not only do you know yourself, but you can read yourself in a sense. You there's what the intuition, right? Your heart center, which is your GPS guidance. And I started I was always intuitive. I knew that, but I had lost it in my marriage because I would say things and my former would say, "You're freaking me out, turn it off." And nobody talked about
Of
ESP
course.
or intuitiveness or anything like that. So I thought there was something wrong with me, and I'm already
Wrong.
stupid. It must be really. So
Yeah.
when I divorced, I was looking for something, and I didn't even know how to articulate it, what I was looking for.
Of course.
I really, so it's been a journey. It's been a long journey, and I'm happy to say, it's not that I can't, I'm happy to say that I've never been happier. And knowing myself and learning to love myself was the first thing.
Right. Do you find that in itself is quite a journey to learn about yourself and love yourself in ways that you didn't even know was possible? Is that, yeah.
Absolutely. Anything new is the fear
Mm-hmm.
of the, you know, it always looks like the grass is greener on the other side, and you get on the other side and it's like it's just green grass,
Yeah.
right? It's just maybe a different feel or whatever, or texture, whatever. The same thing with life. We don't know what we don't know. I mean,
Of
we didn't know
course.
how to ride a bicycle until we rode a bicycle. We didn't know how to
Right.
drive a car until you get in and you get in behind the car and you're like, and then you sit next to your father, mother, or whoever taught you how to drive. And what do I do first? Do I put the key in? Do I do the mirror? And you're all over the place. But now you get in the car, you don't even think about it. Well, it's the same thing
Right.
with life,
Right.
right? With anything in life. So what I started doing was I started looking at like, wow, what can I build with that? And I go deep. It's just
Yeah.
there. And I started looking at that. I'm like, wow, if I can do that with that, then what can I build with that with this? And why am I so fearful?
Mm.
So I started looking at it and I took on spirituality and I took on a mentor, and I believe that we're
Mhm.
not here to do life alone. So I got first and foremost, Reverend Alma Stevens was, God bless. She's become family now. And she
Oh,
was such a big part of my life because I didn't know what I didn't know.
of course.
And because I had that curious mind, she said to me, okay, you're going on this journey. Are you sure you want to go on it? Because it's going to be lonely once you get there. And I'm like, what do you mean? Of course I want to do this. And instead of it was a 2-year course, I'll never forget it, to get my ministry license. And it was like, okay, three from column A and three from column B and three, and I'm like, no, I'm taking all six. I don't care how long it takes. So I did the whole gamut. And I'm so grateful I did because it really it gave me different perspectives. So I was always a
Right.
fan of Wayne Dyer's, and I remember
Yep.
hearing Wayne Dyer say, "When you change the way you look at things, the
Mm.
things you look at change." My brain heard it. When you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things change. So it's
Ah.
all around perspective, right? And even biblically, they talk about
Mhm.
perspective all the time. So where is the perspective around self-love? If
Mm.
I'm taught that I'm not enough, does that have to be my truth? And I remember Reverend Alma saying to me, Karen, you got to tell yourself 5,000 times a day that you love yourself. And I looked at her like, 5,000? That's an awful. She says, yes, it's 2 hours and 28 minutes. And I'm like, I don't have 2 hours and 28 minutes. She says, yes, you do. You can do it every time you go to the bathroom. You can do it in between class. You can do it, you know, And I couldn't, back at the time, I couldn't even look at myself in the
Mm.
mirror. I was still living in the marital home, and I'll never forget. I wrote a blog about it back in the day because I had a mirror that was 9 feet long and 6 feet high. And it was before I even learned about uh, um, oh God, I forgot. I just went Louise Hay.
Oh, yes.
And right. And I had no clue because I was so busy focusing on quantum physics and neuroscience and all this other stuff and coaching and all this other communication, all this other stuff that I hadn't even looked at that aspect of life at that point. But I just knew intuitively.
Mm.
And I love sticky notes. I'm a huge fan of sticky notes. So I started writing on the sticky notes all these affirmations that I didn't believe I was beautiful. I didn't believe that God loved me. I didn't believe, but I'm putting them all on sticky notes. And literally, I had a 9 by 9 square, and not that I was wearing a lot of makeup back there because I was crying my eyes out half the time, but I had a 9 by 9 to do whatever I was going to do, brush my teeth in this little square.
Sure.
And every time I went in the bathroom, I would read another one. I would read them. I would
Hmm.
read them until finally my brain started believing it. I would take them off and put them off to the side. And then by the time I finished, I looked over and I had a 9 by 9 square of all the ones that I was still over in a month period. So it really begins with training your brain. So when I looked in the mirror and I said I love myself, it meant I had to look up and look in my eyes and I like looking down right away. And God forbid I looked at my whole body. It was like, that was
Yep.
all, So I got to a point, the more I did it, the more I practiced, then I started love myself.
Yeah.
And because I was
Adding.
a little girl
Yeah.
and I would dance. So my 2 hours and 28 minutes started becoming a habit,
Yeah.
right? So when we create a habit, we create new neural pathways, which will give us different results.
Love it. Now, is that how you help people tap into subconscious, or is there something different that you do there?
There's part of the way. I also journal every day. I have it right here. I journal every
Mm.
day. And part of creating new habits is also creating new stories that we tell
Right.
ourselves. So I used to think
Right.
I'm stupid. Well, I'm no longer stupid. I mean, I might do stupid things now and then, but I get to choose to laugh at them. It will never go away. Stupid never goes away. But I've
Right.
learned to respond to it like that visceral we were talking about. When I get that visceral reaction, I say, "Oh, there it is again. Thanks for sharing, but I'm in control." And now I get to either choose to laugh at it or just like, "Thanks for sharing," poo-poo it away, and it goes away.
Right.
So because the brain was actually designed back in the day in the Neanderthal times to protect us from danger.
Of course.
I don't carry around a club and all
Yeah.
that
Right.
around
Keep
with
the
me, but
tigers away. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, but the brain is always going to be there to protect you, but the heart is there to guide you, as is the gut. So
Yeah.
there are three main centers in our body, and your body is always talking. It never goes away. So my platform when I'm working with my clients now is really first and foremost around health and well-being, because your
Hmm.
health is your wealth. And without that, it's like that cog, that wheel, it's sort of, gimping along. That, yeah, you can manage life that way, but do you want to manage life that
Right.
way? Because it's all perception,
Right.
right? This you're heaven on earth, and how do you want to live it? Or, it could be just a choice to create joy. I mean, for me, I want personal freedom, and
Yeah.
personal freedom brings joy and happiness. So I get to choose. And when I set my intention, so by journaling every morning, I'm setting my intention for the day.
Right.
Energy, right? Where thoughts go, energy flows. So, where do I want my thoughts to go, number one, and where do I want my energy to go, and more importantly, on whom do I want to expend my energy?
Yeah.
So, when speaking on stages, you usually have your smartphones with you, and it's like, when the battery's out, right? If I keep loaning my battery to everybody else and giving
Right.
and giving and giving, I'm a reformed people pleaser, so I can talk. So I'm in that space now. If everybody keeps sucking my energy dry when I really need the phone to, or my energy to do something important for me, I'm not going to have that.
Right.
It's really creating boundaries as well
Hmm.
around where I'm going to expend my energy and on whom. So all of these have been lessons for me, and now I give back. And one of the first things I do is I've been doing mind mapping for
Oh, yes.
32 for years. So that's one of the first things I do because it creates whole brain thinking. So as my clients are brain dumping, I'm like, they're not seeing these connections. And I'm able to speak from on all my copy, everything I do on the Tranquil Solutions site is with a W in front of holistic because we're whole
Right.
in here right now, right? So um I work in the realms of the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual as wholeness for well-being. So I'll map my conversations, but I will always ask them to go out and purchase a journal. And I don't mean like a dollar store notebook. I'm
Right.
purchase because you're putting something of yourself at stake, you're
Mm-hmm.
more likely going to do it. Use a
Mm-hmm.
color that you're going to love, and when you journal, it's not, when I journal, it's not like, and I set them up for success in that respect. You're not journaling, oh, I went to lunch with my girlfriend today, or I went to the bathroom, or what,
Right.
nothing like that. It's intentional journaling that gets your mind thinking. So
Hmm.
as a result of that, and a result of my Wayne Dyer's thought that I had,
Yeah.
which changed the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I never back then had any inkling I was going to be doing or having or experiencing what I am today. Because again, I mean, coming out of victim role really took something,
Yeah.
to shift. And I remember getting asked to a creativity conference, and I went in California. And the next thing I know, somebody saw, you never know who's watching and who's speaking. And I'm just being me.
Right.
I'm a
Yeah.
authentic. What you see is what you get. I mean, that's right.
It's why you're
And
here, sister. That's why you're here.
right. So I believe leading from the heart is the way to
Yeah.
go. And not everybody's going to appreciate that. And that's
Of
fine. I'm
course.
not attached to that. That
Yeah.
somebody heard me speak and I made a difference in their life
Mm.
as a result of, I heard Wayne Dyer. I said, what can I build with this? What are my tools? And I took a deck of visual cards to this
Yeah.
program and I created a program and I started doing presentations and facilitations. I had no idea what I was doing, but it
Yeah,
just
of
felt
course.
right. Always tapped
Yep.
it. And as a result of this gentleman would not give up his seat. He wouldn't give anybody else a turn. And he ended up writing his whole book. And on my website, he wrote this beautiful testimony to in person. And he had what was called, this was the last year, sadly, that he had Mind Camp up in Canada. And he invited me to present at Mind Camp, which is a creative problem
Love it.
solving community. And I made my best friends out of that community because it's relatable. So when you find people to
Right.
relate with, they lift you. I call them the wind beneath my wings. And that's the people I
Yep.
want to hang out with because I'm going to be that for them. And I want that for me. So as a result of that, I happen to be sitting, they paired us up with, do this thing, and they paired us up with people. And during that time, I was paired up with um, Dr. Neiman, and he was running one of the most prestigious camps of programs in South Africa. And he invited me, because it was by invite only, to be a presenter at his program, which was ACR, the South African Creativity. Um, and it was just like, oh my God,
Right.
and it was like,
Yeah.
I'm taking my pulse, like, how did I get here from being the victim that I was? And so,
Right.
doors are going to open, but
Yeah.
allow.
Yeah. 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 And when you do the work that you provide, like I know you have Tranquil Solutions Clarity tool that you've created.
Yes.
And so, what does it mean when you use that tool and become more soulfully empowered? How do you use that tool to help you develop that deep understanding of whom you really are?
I love that question. Thank you. That's brilliant. Um, bec- it starts with self,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
I was doing this for myself. I was building all these tools for me
Yeah.
to had a burnout and for me to function as a mother and for me to go out there and go, oh my God, I've got to create a business or I got to do something because I don't want to work at Walmart or McDonald's. And I was like, and there's nothing against those listening that are
Of
doing, but it's just, I
course.
knew it wasn't for me. And I thought, what can I build with this? And
Mm.
I remember Tranquil Solutions, my company name, it was a download for me.
Ah.
I was thinking about it and I said, oh gosh, like, if I'm going to do this coaching business and this coaching thing, what am I going to call myself? And it was like, I'm like, okay, thank you. Where'd that come from? And my girlfriend who worked in advertising in New York says to me, Karen, that's never going to fly. And
Mm.
that was in 2007, I created the company. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not going to fly? And I said, that's like stripping me of my name, Karen, and me being naked. I'm like, I mean, that feels
Yeah.
like who I am,
Yeah.
because I'm really coming from that space. 3 years later, she came to me. She says, you know what, Karen, I was wrong. You are so that, and I went, yeah, because I want to be authentic
Of
to who I
course.
say I am and keep the integrity in there. So in 2010, I was going through my spiritual journey, as I said, and I was discovering more and more who I was and who I wanted to be out there in the world. And I remember taking a program and I was up on stage with 700 people going, and I wasn't even thinking because I was like so busy, and they're like, who are you going to be in the world? And I'm like, I'm going to be love. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm saying, but okay, it just came out. And then I started feeling like, wow, like how am I going to do that? Like, I don't even know how to love myself. But just in the beginning was the word.
Yeah.
So just declaring it. So at that time, I declared that I was going to create a tool that was going to serve people across the globe at an affordable price. I
Mm.
had no idea what that was going to look like. Had no idea. But I had been
Yep.
taking this physical program to all these creativity programs, and they're my peers. So I would go home, trial and error it, go
Right.
back, trial and error it, and I kept building and building. What can I build with this? And, oh, I got this feedback. That's data, right? What can I build with this? What can I do with that? And I hired this gal on my team who was a tech, and I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I'm going to create an updated version of this, and I'm going to like make a deck and a journal and all. And she looked at me and she said, Karen, we're living in the century. Like, why don't you digitalize it? And I went, what? Because I'm still one of those people that text with
Of
one
course.
finger.
Yep.
My kids are, and I was like, okay, I'll look at it, cha-ching. I mean, it costs money like anything else.
Yep.
And I spoke to my coach and I'm like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, possibility here, but it would get it out quicker. It would be affordable and it would be across the globe quicker and
Right.
sooner. So what I did was I gave her the framework
Hmm.
and I said, I want, we put the quantum physics, we put neuroscience, we put NLP, we put
Yeah.
heart math, licensed in heart math, we put my coaching framework that has been years of research and,
Hmm.
shifting and, oh, this doesn't work, let me try something else kind of thing. And I just said, we've just poured everything. And she asked a bunch of questions, which I was so grateful for.
Mm.
And hours and hours of development. But then we actually called it the mind mosaic originally.
Okay.
And I spoke to an attorney because I wanted to get it trademarked and
Of
copyrighted.
course.
That's my intellectual property.
Right.
And he says to me, that name has not been taken. However, it's going to be lost in the crowd. What else can you do? And Tranquil
Mm.
Solutions is already trademarked. Use that as the umbrella. So we came up with the Tranquil Solutions Clarity tool. And what that is it is a digital product. So it
Yeah.
goes across your smartphone. So you can have Karen in your back pocket 24/7, on the computer or on a pad or whatever your,
Yeah.
product is. But basically what it is it's there to support your decision making. It's there to
Mm.
support you really tapping into your own intuitive. We have the answers. So tapping into your own knowing. So it's guided questions. We don't ask ourselves the right questions.
Yes.
So, we think we know what we know, but then we start the patterns.
Yep.
So it's geared for identifying after time, after usage, identifying the patterns, and then the accompanying journal, which is in the works right now, will, once you
Nice.
start identifying the patterns, then what can you build with that? And what do
Right.
you want to choose, right? It's a choice to shift because it's the good, bad, and the ugly. I mean, when I look at my good, bad, and ugly, it's like, oh, Karen, do I really want to, if I'm coming from love, is this
Yeah.
alignment? Because it's all about embodiment and alignment. Do I really want to be that?
Right.
Well, it's scary to change that, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So what can I do to change that ugliness, right? And it's not
Hmm.
bad. It's just,
No.
innate. I mean, we've been practicing this for 60 some odd years, And,
Right?
so who do I want to be if I want to bring this and serve others in the world? I can't do that if I'm,
Right.
holding on to it. So it taps into the inner wisdom. It really taps deep into I'm a deep person, as you can
Hmm.
tell. It taps
Hmm.
into the subconscious mind to get your answers that you have. I'm
Right.
not going away, but to hire me, you're going to pay a lot of money to hire me over a period of time. Where
Hmm.
with this, you have me in your back pocket. If you choose to join the group, you'll have me once a week answering your questions or, that kind of thing. And I'm
Right.
available now. I mean, if people reach out to me and ask a question, I'm going to answer it. I'm not going to say, oh, no, 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 you gotta, but it's a
Right.
full,
Yeah. And what I really love about what you're saying is that and this might not resonate for you, but it is for me right now. It's a guide on the side. So you're doing your reflection of you. It's not, I'm giving you this, so go and try this. It's your work. And I love the journal piece to it. So,
yes, because for me, I hired Oprah's coach after my divorce. I didn't have a pot to piss in, but I had gone to this massive networking group and she was up on stage and I'm like, well, if it's good enough for Oprah, it's got to be good enough for me. I don't know what I was thinking, but I hired this woman. She was out of California and I'm sitting there listening to her and my mouth is like, and she's telling me what to do and how to do. And I'm like, I already had a mother. I don't need another mother. And what can I build with this? I don't want to be that kind of coach. So it took me months to pay her off. And then, of course, she comes to me and says, and at that time I was doing equine because I have horses. I was
yes.
doing equine therapy, trauma release. And well, this is what we're doing in California, and this is how we're doing. And you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I'm like, I don't need to do anything, right? It doesn't feel good for me, So I always, always, always go back to the feeling.
Nice.
And before I paid her off, I said, I want to be people's guides.
Mm,
I want to teach them how to fish. I don't want to sit there and string them along for $1 because that doesn't feel good for me. I
yep.
want to teach them how to empower themselves so they can empower not just themselves, but empower others. What a world that would be. Imagine that.
That's why we're here, my dear. I love it. What an honor to have this conversation with you. Oh, so, so rich. Is there anything you would love to leave our audience with as we close off our conversation today?
Well, yeah, when you have it all within you. Trust you because when you change the way you look at things, the things in your world will change.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen. What a
Thank
gift to the world. What an opportunity to share space with you and time with you and glean everything I could from our conversation with your beautiful wisdom. Thank you so much for doing what you do in this world. My name is Denise Drinkwalter, the Midlife Renewal Coach, host of Thrive After 45. It's been a pleasure to be in your community. I hope you've been listening. Please share a review if it resonates with you. We would love to hear how our conversations land for you and what questions continue to surface as you listen, and make sure you go and do something for you, by you, because of you today. In the show notes, you will get access to how to find Karen in the world. And take care of yourselves, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.